Aw.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
So thank you very much for joining this morning and for agreeing to be one of our interview guests. Nice to meet
Thank
you. Nice
you.
to see you. Yeah,
Nice
nice to
to
see
see
you.
you.
We've been talking online for some time, so it's good to be able to connect in this way.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so I would like to, I guess, begin with a question about where you are from, if you don't mind answering that question. Because we're talking about African composers and their works, their music, their inspirations, their experiences. So, can you let us know where are you from?
Well, I'm from Nigeria, Imo State to be precise, but I'm married to Anambra.
Okay. Oh, why are
Yes,
you laughing? Are you laughing at?
just smiling.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Um. All right. So, I mean, good, and I guess congratulations on your nuptials, as you just mentioned that you're married to someone from Anambra. Um. So we're going to dive right in, and go straight to your music. Can you tell us a little bit about your inspirations? Who are your inspirations? What are your inspirations when it comes to composing? Feel free to go as far back as you want to, all the way to the present day.
all right. Music for me started with my mother, and she was my number one role model because she was a great singer, and so I loved to hear her voice. But unfortunately, we lost her, and afterwards, I began to do music, and I wanted to just be like her. And by the grace of God, God blessed me, and it was just it kept unfolding by itself. I started loving music, like some secular music, especially some pop music, like Celine Dion and all that. And then I decided that I would go study music in school. And so when I went to study music, I got engaged with classical music and all that. Then I began to fall deeply in love with music. Then I had to begin to study theory of music and all that. And in the process of studying, I the inspiration kept building, and God kept unfolding what He wants me to do. And He's still unfolding them to the grace of God. He's still unfolding them. So as I began to study, I started loving more of deep music and all that. And when I was through with school, I started working, especially as a music therapist. And as a music therapist, I got so engaged in some music like Yanni's composition. And then also when I was living at Republic of Cotonou of Benin, Cotonou, I got engaged with different African music from their culture, plus my Igbo culture. And music kept reforming itself in my head and all that. So I think my inspiration comes from one God. And then when I hear music, the things I hear and the things I see begin to form different kinds of music in my head.
Okay. Thank you
Mm.
very much for the background on that. You mentioned Celine Dion, and we've noticed the name of you put around Gracie Dion. Is there a connection
Okay.
somewhere?
No, actually, so many people ask me that, but it
Okay.
goes beyond. It goes beyond that. Yes, Celine Dion was a mentor when I started off, but then I haven't even thought of having Gracie Dion as a name. Then many people were calling me Celine Dion because of my voice or the way I sing, but actually Gracie Dion came from I got Dion as God from Greek, and my name is Grace, and I loved the name Grace because Grace, that name has really been speaking for me in so many ways. So I wanted, even if people were trying to change my name, I wanted that Grace to still be there. So I had to join the two of them. And to the glory of God, since that name has been there, it's been wonderful. So I'll call it a divine name. I call it, the meaning of that name is grace of God. So
Okay.
I still want people, when they call me grace of God, so that the grace of God will keep working for me and all around me.
Okay. All right. It's good to have some, some background on where
Exactly.
Gracidian came from. Okay, that's good. And you mentioned the fact that you are a music therapist. It's also part of your profile on the African Composers website. Can you just give
Yes.
a little bit about what that entails? It sounds very interesting. What does it involve?
Yes, I was working as a music therapist at the Ten Strings Music Institute, and we train special students, especially autistic, Down syndrome, and oh well, no, some of them are already adults, some are children, and it's not really so easy because they operate on a different level, but it involves you using music to be able to teach people with such conditions. See them as normal people. It's just that their reaction to things may not be the way you react to things. So with music therapy, we play different instruments and we expose them to beautiful music, not just music that has a lot of noise, but music that makes you reflect deeply, so deeply that it begins to work in your brain. Like I've had some students that at the end of it all, like there was a student, he doesn't talk, but at the end of his program, he began to sing and he began to play instruments. Currently, now he plays like 5 instruments and he's still in the music industry. Once he stands on the stage, you would never believe that he is autistic in nature. He just begins to display everything his heart feels like. And sometimes, when he feels like talking, he could use music to express his feeling.
Okay.
So, though I'm still learning with my students, I'm still learning more about them because it's a beautiful experience because it takes you deep into what music can do in the person's life.
It must be a really slow process. I mean, it's not something that will probably happen overnight as soon as somebody turns up or a child is presented to you.
Exactly, exactly. It takes patience and dedication and consistency. Before you know it, you may not even see a very good results after the first month, the second month, but from the fourth month, you could see a slight result, and then before you know it, you start seeing beautiful changes. But it takes patience to.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting to hear. Okay, well done.
Thank
If
you.
you don't mind, I'm just going to, I guess, make a slight direction change because you and I are both aware of what's been happening in our country from the perspective of the attacks that people have been facing, physical terrorism related attacks. Now, some might find this a bit, I guess, light-hearted to say, but music is very important. Do you think beyond when people are faced with psychological terror, physical terror, after the event has passed, there is any chance that there is a place for music therapy in the lives of these people? Because sometimes we wonder what kind of support do people get after they faced a terrorism attack? What kind of psychological help, not just the physical help to, to rehabilitate them? Do you think there is any space at all for music in our society to bring about healing for all of us and for those who have faced attacks directly?
Well, music plays a huge role in our lives. And I know even apart from the attacks we see in our country today or in the world generally, people are passing through a lot of things because some people have passed through a lot of things. Maybe they may not have said it out for the whole world to hear, or maybe they keep it to themselves. And there are even some people that are still passing through a lot of things. So even apart from the things happening outside, many people have things that are bothering them, have things that make them to close their doors and lock themselves indoor and cry. And but I there's something about music that goes beyond the ordinary, that I believe that even if we could have concerts that make people so happy. I remember when we had one of my concerts, then somebody came to meet me and say, "You don't know what you did to me through watching this concert. It's something I will forever cherish because it was just speaking to me, speaking to my heart." So we have so many concerts that people go to. Sometimes you may not even have to pay. Sometimes some of these concerts may be free. When you go there, you would feel different, and sometimes that feeling you experience, you hold it in your heart, that sometimes when you feel depressed again and you remember that feeling, it gives you hope again. So I believe that music today can also help, because I am beginning to see that the world is beginning to like real good music, music that touches the heart, music that touches the soul, unlike the times when we were a little bit distracted with noise that makes you not to concentrate any longer, or maybe noise that makes you to feel so um, high-hearted or afraid or something. So
Okay.
I believe music is still is doing a lot right now.
Okay. All right. So music can have a healing effect, no matter what the kind of trauma that people have
It
been
can
through. There's
have,
okay. There's always a place. There
exactly.
is a
I
place
like
potentially for music.
that.
Okay.
Yes,
All
like
right.
when I wrote the song, the opera on Job opera.
Yes. That's
I was written with Victor Obona. I had a very huge trauma before I even wrote that. I lost one of my beloved brothers then, and after the experience, I began to the story of Job just made him to write this, and I'm going to put it into music, and everything was just musical. And by the time we acted it out on at the last concert, it was even like it was talking to me. Apart from the people who came around, but it was like talking to me and preaching to me. Even sometimes when I want to look back at the experience then, and I remember the story of Job and the whole opera, I begin to smile again. So you see that music goes a long way. It works so much in the healing aspect and helping us in this time.
okay. You've mentioned your brother. And I'm really
Yeah,
sorry for your loss, because when it happened, I heard about it. Really, really sorry to hear about it, and I'm glad
thank you.
that you and Ogbonna were able to work together to put together the opera, the story of
Yeah,
Job. So we will mention your brother later on down the line, when we look at one of the compositions that was performed, one of your works for bassoon. Um,
yeah.
but before that, I want to just look at Lift Up Every Voice. You mentioned the concerts and people being inspired, and I thought, should we just talk a little bit about Lift Up Every Voice? And if you can tell us what led to that event being organized, it's now becoming an annual event, what inspired it?
Well, I just finished school when I started that. At least I've been a year in the work service, and it was just a burning desire in me to do something. And I had a friend then was my accompanist, Ezekiel Babalola, and we're just talking, and I was telling him I wanted to do a concert and all that. I never knew it. God had bigger plans like that. So we decided to just put up something. And in the process of putting up something, it began to grow wider and bigger than what we were even looking at. More concepts kept coming in, more concepts kept coming in, more ideas and inspirations kept coming in. And to the glory of God, we had the first one in 2016. And then we continued and continued. And the people who came around were like, wow, this should not stop. please keep it up, please keep it up. Though it's not been easy organizing such concerts, because our intent in the beginning was to make the concert free, so people can come and watch quality concerts. They'll be inspired, they'll be touched, they'll have something to watch, relax, and be happy, and use music to make people just give back to the world what we have. But though it's not been easy because of the funding and all that, but God has been faithful so far. So that's how the concert started, 2016, and today we are in 2019. And by God's grace, we're working towards a great concert in 2020.
Okay. One thing that has come across from, your answers so far is the fact that you seem to always like to collaborate and work with people. And we are going to play one of your compositions now, performed by Midori Sampson. And you will tell us the name of the composition after we finish playing through. So there are two of them. I'll play the first one, and there is the first one before she
Okay.
performs. It starts with you speaking, and this is where we hear about
Okay.
your brother. So I will just play that now for the.
I'm Grace Brenner, also known as Grace Gideon. I'm a music therapist, an African composer, and a singer. The first one, Chetaria, it means repent. The first time Mediori contacted me to compose some African pieces for the bazaar. During that period, I was passing through a shock where I lost my senior brother, and I was just coming out of the shock. And so when she told me she wanted a piece, the first feeling that came to me was the urge to tell people to have a routine if they were doing wrong, to actually repent. If we are still alive, there's always time to make amends if you're not going on the right path. So that's the song, Chiharia. So the second one is Inkowa. Inkowa is another Igbo piece from the eastern part of Nigeria. It means explanation, when someone is trying to explain something. So I put that into music. They are beautiful songs by the grace of God. They have the feel of the Igbo traditional people from the eastern part of Nigeria. Hello.
Hello. So that was Shegaria,
Hi.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. That was performed by Midori Sampson, who you've collaborated with before. She performed the works of different African composers from Africa.
Yeah.
Um, and you talked about your brother before that performance. Talking about what
Yeah.
happened. Do you want to say anything more about that?
No, I just thank God he's in a good place. So, but Cheharia was born after, because during the time when Midori contacted me was that time I was even in the heat of it all. And I just, when she said she gave me the idea of what she was about to do, and that was the thing that came to my mind, and the song began to play in my head, and I began to write it, and that was how Cheharia was born. Since then,
Okay.
we thank God.
All right. Sorry for your loss once again, and it's a beautiful beautiful composition. By
Thank
the way,
you.
speaking of your compositions and your collaborations across the globe with different people, you compose in quite a number of languages. Looking at your African composers profile, did you have to learn these languages? What gives you the confidence to write in these different languages? You would expect that maybe you would write in Igbo and English, and that's it. But I mean, you write in quite a variety.
Okay, well, even me, I'm like, I just believe it's God all the way. Sometimes music is beyond the ordinary. Like I said before, music is deeper than what we see. I could stay on my own and I begin to feel inside of me like I'm singing in a language I don't even know, and then I begin to write it so fast so that I don't forget it, or I get a phone to record it and all that. And then at the end of it all, when we check it, we find out that it's actually a language or so and so, and then we begin to find the meaning and all that. And before you know it, a song is born. So, like I tell some of my students, inspirations fly, so it's left for you to grab the inspiration once it has flown. And if you don't grab it, someone else might grab it. Like my Kuzomo Yabechi. I don't speak Hausa, I don't hear Hausa,
Okay,
but
Kuzomu Yabechi. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
I don't speak Hausa, I don't hear Hausa, and to the glory of God, I sang in Hausa and I wrote the song in Hausa. That was how it all started. I was just on my own and the music began to play in my head. I began to sing it and I recorded it. But I
Okay.
felt in my heart that this is Hausa and this is the
Wait,
meaning.
wait. So sometimes some songs come to you, even though you don't know the languages that are coming to you, so to speak. You hear a
Yes,
sound, you write it down, you check with those who understand different languages, and they
yeah,
tell you, well, you've actually just composed something in X language.
exactly,
So I
exactly.
Could it be because of your diverse background? And I'm going to quickly bring something up here about the Republic of Benin. You mentioned it earlier. It's also on your profile. For those who are
Yeah,
interested, you can go to africancomposers.com, look up Grace Bernardo Oforka's profile as the composer, guest composer of today. You do have something to do with the Republic of Benin. Could it be that it's because of your diverse background? You've been to different places, you've interacted and engaged, and perhaps as part of those interactions, you've picked up these languages or parts of them, and they sort of come out in different sounds from you.
yeah, it could be. It's part of it, and also God in question. I will not deny the God factor because sometimes I'm overwhelmed with it all. I remember one day I was on my own in the classroom after working with one of the special students, and then a song in Egun came to me, and I began to play it on the recorder. It was pure Egun music. And when I finished, I began to sing in Egun, and I recorded it so fast so that I would not forget it. And I kept praying to God. I don't know this language I was been singing or that I sang in the class. Please tell me. And to the glory of God, there was a lady I know. I contacted her and I told her, I don't know why my mind is bringing me to you. Please, can you help me listen to this song and tell me which language I'm singing? I didn't even know she had lived in Benin, that she's from Benin Republic, and that she's from Fombe. You know, Fombe sounds like Egun in Nigeria. So she listened to it and said, "Oh my God, you just sang in Ego, and this is the meaning of what you sang." I was like,
Okay.
wow, this is even strange.
Okay.
So music is just beyond the ordinary than we see it. So I would say it's part of my experience going out, and also not just that, to God to trying to give give us the gift to the world.
Okay. Well, that's quite interesting. Thanks for giving us
Yeah,
some insight into your process and how sometimes music comes to you in different languages, even languages that you don't
exactly.
understand.
Yeah.
We are rapidly approaching the end of the interview, which is a real shame. But I would like to point out to the listeners and the watchers today, you have quite a few of them on Facebook. People are commenting just to let people know that Grace also sings. So you can, look at her Facebook page, do a search for Grace Bernard Oforka, and you will find out more about Grace. So we will not play any of her performances today of her singing, but you can find them available online. Um, I want to now talk about any challenges that you may have faced as a composer, because you do get performed, you organize
Yeah.
events and also help you get your music out there. But I'm sure, or rather, some composers face challenges with getting their works performed. Have there been many challenges? And do you think that there is enough being done to support composers, perhaps where you are in the States, in the country where you currently stay?
Well, I'll say the challenges are there. So it's always there. I remember having to stage our concerts, how sometimes it seems so impossible too. But to the glory of God, we always come true. One major challenge that composers pass through is funding. And in Nigeria currently, there's nothing like a grant given to a composer or something like that to support their music and all that. Everything, everybody tries to work on their own. And maybe if you have family and friends who truly believe in your dreams or see the potential of your dreams, they would just support you. But then when you don't have anybody, you have to see yourself struggling and struggling. Like we had one very great composition this year. Because of funding, we couldn't push through, but we are still working on it because nothing good actually comes easy. Despite
Okay.
the challenge, we will
Okay.
still win.
Yes. And just because we are nearing the end of our 30 minutes, I wanted to bring up the topic of Africans now. You as an African, what
Yeah.
I've noticed online that a lot of groups from different parts of the world announce events that they are going to hold in Africa, in different African countries. They say, I'm going to Africa to go and teach Africans X, Y, and Z about music, music composition, conducting. And recently I started to wonder, why, when are we going to get to a point where Africans start to say, actually, I'm so influenced by your culture, okay, these outside cultures, foreign cultures. I think it
Hmm.
is time for you as an outsider perhaps to come to me to learn something rather than always coming and saying you have something to teach me. Do you think that as Africans, we are actually aware that we have quite a lot to teach the world and maybe we are not doing all that we should be doing? Instead of always sitting down and receiving, we are quite an influenced culture. Should we not get to a point where we say, actually, you stay where you are, I'm coming to teach you? Because in terms of raising funds, raising the profiles of composers, perhaps it is time for us to take an ownership seat. What do you think?
I actually support you on that because Africa has a whole lot of things. Even apart from music, our culture is so rich that it has a lot to share with the world. And I think the world is also beginning to recognize that, because some people are reaching out to African composers and Africans that want to please what we want to hear what you have, we want to see what you have, because it sounds unique, probably because it hasn't been so released to the world like that. And so everybody that has gotten a glimpse of it sees that there is more to our culture and they want to even learn. But then I think sometimes we feel like no, that we don't really know what we have. That's what I think it's happening, is sometimes we don't really know what we have. That's why it seems like they are the ones coming around to teach us. But I believe that we'll get to the extent whereby in future we'll have references to our African music, whereby people go to school, even when you travel out of the country and you're not an African, you may want to study about the African music.
Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Speaking of
Mm,
African music or music by African composers, I'm going to play
exactly.
your second composition that was performed by.
Hello.
I was wondering how you pronounce the word, the title of that piece, Nkowa.
Nkowa.
Nkowa. And that means, sorry, if you just tell us again what it means.
Explanation.
Okay.
Trying to explain to somebody, but you're not actually, you don't know how to put it. You know, there are some times that you want to say something and you don't know how to put it into words. So that's the music.
Okay. Wow. Grace, it's been interesting talking to you today. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for giving of your
So much.
time. Thank you. You are
Thank
getting good
you.
reactions on Facebook from those who are watching. Um,
Oh, thank you all.
so thank you very much for joining, and I guess we hope to keep in touch with you, follow your progress, see how you are carrying on with your music. We wish you the best in your future endeavors, you and other
Thank
African
you.
composers. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very
so
much.
much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody else, for joining. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.